Hi Year 2! This video is for our second week, week 2 of our topic, the great outdoors, and we're going to be thinking about instructions. This video is quite exciting and was very yummy to make because it's all about instructions on how to toast marshmallows, either inside or outside, depending what you can do. So the first piece of equipment that we're going to need is marshmallows. I used the slightly bigger ones, not the mini ones, when I was toasting them outside. The next piece of equipment that I used for toasting the full-size marshmallows was wooden barbecue skewers, and I soaked these in a glass of water for a few hours before I used them so that they wouldn't burn too easily when I was toasting the marshmallows. And I took a marshmallow and stuck it onto the end, pushed it on carefully onto each skewer. Remember, they will be really sharp on at least one end, won't they, these skewers? Now it depends what you're going to use to toast your marshmallows when you're outside. You might have a barbecue that a grown-up could set up for you, or you might be able to make a campfire somewhere that is safe to do so. Obviously, you mustn't go and do any of these things on your own. You must make sure that the grown-ups in your house are with you when you're doing it. If you're going to be using a barbecue or something outside, you're going to need some way of lighting your fuel. And that might be a striker, if you have a striker, like we would use when we do forest school things at school. Or you might have matches at home that your grown-ups could use, or you might have something else that could light the fire to begin with. Before you can light your fuel, you need to decide what your fuel is going to be. Maybe you could use kindling or small dry sticks that you have found somewhere outside, or maybe you will be using larger pieces of wood if you already have that at home. Maybe you already have a wood burning stove at home and you could use some wood from that. Another fuel that you could use is charcoal, and it's really important if you're going to use charcoal, you want the embers, that means as the charcoal is beginning to burn down, to be glowing. So ideally you don't still have really big flames coming up, you have glowing embers, so you'll be able to see them glowing an orangey red colour, and the outside surface of each piece of charcoal will probably have gone very powdery and white. And it'll be extremely hot, so you'll obviously have to be very, very careful, but it will toast your marshmallows much more evenly rather than just burning them on the outside and them still being raw on the inside. Now, other things to remember, whether you're toasting marshmallows indoors or outdoors, if you've got long hair, make sure it's tied back so it's not going to flop forwards and possibly be a fire risk. Make sure you're not standing too close and that you're taking it in turns with anybody else that you're toasting your marshmallows with. And always, always remember how hot everything will get and to blow on your marshmallow once you've toasted it. I wonder if you can remember how many times we blow on our marshmallows when we've been doing this at school. It's 10 times, isn't it? Each marshmallow needs 10 blows before you can pop it in your mouth, and it might still be a little bit hot then. Remember to definitely always do this with a grown-up, and they might give you some other rules that they have as well when they are toasting marshmallows. If you're not able to toast marshmallows outside, maybe you could try toasting them indoors. You might remember at Christmas we did this as a treat in year 2, didn't we? And we use slightly different equipment. So this is the equipment that you will now need if you're going to toast marshmallows indoors. And to toast them indoors, it's much easier if you use the mini marshmallows, the little ones that sometimes you get on top of hot chocolate or on cakes and things like that. They're much smaller, so you'll need the mini marshmallows for this task. Instead of barbecue skewers, you will need wooden cocktail sticks. Obviously the marshmallow is much smaller, so you can use a much smaller stick. But remember, cocktail sticks are still really sharp. They've got two pointed ends, so be careful when you're handling them. Pop a marshmallow onto the end of the cocktail stick, push it on a little bit, and watch out that you don't poke your fingers with them. Instead of a barbecue or campfire, which obviously wouldn't be very safe indoors, when we have toasted mini marshmallows in the classroom, you may remember that we have used tea lights, small candles. And when they are lit, remember they will still get very, very hot, especially directly above the flame, but they are a lot safer than a long tall candle, and I will explain in a moment what you can use to make toasting a mini marshmallow on a tea light even safer still. So you will need a tea light as well, and your grown-up will need some way of lighting it, whether that's using matches or some other form of lighter that they have at home. The final piece of equipment that you will need when toasting mini marshmallows indoors makes the whole process a lot safer. At school, you probably remember we always put sand, dry sand out of a sand pit or out of a sand play area, into a shallow, flat tray. If you haven't got sand at home, you could use something like soil or something dry from outside that if your tea light did accidentally tip over, it's going to get extinguished. The flame is going to get put out straight away, and any hot wax that might be in the top of the tea light will just turn to a much cooler solid wax in the sand or the soil as well. So it's much safer because you can't accidentally tip the candle onto a different surface that might be much more flammable, that might burn much more easily whilst you're indoors. So you need a tray or maybe a plate or something shallow and flat that you can put some sand or some soil in and then stand your tea light in that before you light it. And your tea light will stay in that the whole time until it has cooled back down again when you have finished toasting your mini marshmallows. Now we've gone through all the equipment and the methods that we would use if we were going to toast marshmallows either inside or outside. I would love to see if you could write a set of instructions for toasting them. It needs to include a title, an equipment subheading, a list of equipment. Your instructions need to be numbered and in order, and they must have some very bossy verbs, some imperative verbs at the start of each instruction. You can use plain paper or you can type your instructions into the document on purple mash called Following Instructions. And maybe when you've done that, if you ask ever so nicely, your grown-ups might let you have a go at toasting them yourself. I would be really pleased if you managed to get that done, and I would love to see some of your finished instructions.